Welcome to Gospel of the Kingdom. In this first episode, I will share what is the purpose of our lives, why God created human beings, why physical world itself with plants, with animals, with stars in the galaxy, why all these were not enough, why God wanted to have human beings on the earth. And I will base my sharing on Bible, book of Genesis, chapter 1, and let's look at verses 26 to 28. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." These three verses describe God's intention, God's thinking, why and for which purpose he created human beings. He wanted someone to represent him in the physical world. God wanted to expand his kingdom into the physical world. He wanted to get the same things which he already got himself in the spiritual world extended into material world. But the strategy how he wanted to execute his kingship, his ruling, managing of this world is to create his representatives, someone who will be like him, who will be his copies, who will be like his children, his extension into the physical world. As you should notice, it's not only about males, it's also about women, even though in some verses we see the word man, which was the word used in the language the Bible was written, but it elaborates that when it says God created him, it talks about both male and female individuals. If the physical world is a material version of the spiritual world, a human being is a material version of God, simplified not to the full extent, but still according to God's likeness in God's own image. Humans were created like God. Their character, their nature inside was similar to God's one. The mission for human beings, the purpose why they are here, is to practice dominion over the physical world. Dominion means to ensure that everything happens according to someone's will. But to whose will? This depends on who is the source of that dominion. God wanted to determine himself how everything is happening on the earth. But his strategy is that human beings will reflect him. Inside their minds, hearts, souls, inner beings, they will carry the image of God. They will have similar thoughts, similar values, similar attitudes, similar priorities, similar understanding how everything should work. This is what he placed into human beings. And then those men and women were supposed to manage what is happening on the earth according to God's will. And they were finding out, human beings were finding out, that it was also according to their own understanding, because their thinking was already reflecting God's one. Takeaway is that God delegated his authority to humans. Definitely, God has the right to rule everywhere, to be the king of the whole creation, both spiritual and physical worlds. But he decided to delegate the authority to rule, to manage, to develop, to reign on the earth. He delegated it to men and women. And it means that responsibility for everything, what was happening, what is happening on the earth, this responsibility lies on us, on human beings. God is not the one who is engaged in daily matters. He is not coming every time like he did in the beginning to ensure that everything is according to his will. But he empowered human beings to do it themselves. And it is possible as long as human beings carry God's image and likeness. He gave people a few instructions. Let's look at them in details to understand how exactly we were supposed to practice this kingship, dominion over the earth. First instruction was to have dominion over fish, birds, and so on. What it means is to have dominion over different aspects of life on the earth, different areas of society, different professions. And humans needed to become experts, professionals in specific areas. Someone is an expert of birds, someone of fish, someone of mass media, someone of sports, someone of culture, someone of engineering, someone of arts, and so on. Human beings were supposed to become managers, the ones who were overseeing what's happening, how we are dealing with natural resources, with animals, with education, with leadership. Another instruction was to multiply, to increase their numbers. And let's bear in mind that when we are talking about multiplication, it's not just about giving birth to children, but rather to keep giving birth to carriers of God's image and likeness. Grow other human beings who will reflect God's nature. It's called discipleship, leadership, mentorship. He didn't create simply human beings, but human beings with God's image and likeness. And he said to multiply this version, he needed to have many copies of him, to have many kings, many rulers, many managers, engineers, teachers, to fill the whole earth with his children, with kings of the earth. And the end result should be to subdue the earth, the state where the whole functioning of the earth is according to God's will, which is overseen by his representatives. God's will is mainly about love, about justice, and about righteousness. Men and women were supposed eventually to take control of everything what's happening on the earth, manage earthly matters according to God's values and principles. Another instruction is to be fruitful. It means to be productive, be a creator yourself, create something tangible. God is a creator, and human beings should create on their part. Here we are talking about some results, efficiency, which human beings should seek in their respective areas. As we already unfolded that the dominion over fish, birds means making careers in different areas, God was expecting that humans would be dedicated, hardworking in creating something useful, some innovations, devices, technologies, methods, products. Subduing of a particular area means to become such a fruitful manager of this area that we can get the most out of it. If we take the area of healthcare, then those humans who move into this area should seek to develop medications, ways to address health issues. And to be fruitful means to be so professional, such a master of this niche, so productive that they will get to the root reasons of whatever issues we face on the earth. If we take education area, then humans will bring fruits of the most effective ways to educate others, what to educate about, so that people would unlock God's image and likeness in themselves, so that they would be effective in their respective dominion areas. This is what human beings were created for. If you want to listen to full podcasts about God's initial plan for the physical world and human beings, please become our patron.